Really just have a mock game tomorrow. So that was our final practice of so-called camp. We'll give them Saturday off, and they'll come in here in the building. But for the most part, we won't practice them on Saturday and then get to work again on Sunday night. Started Wyoming prep yesterday, full throttle. Got a little bit of work in on Indiana and kind of sprinkled it in during the course of the week. But overall, stayed very healthy. T-Rob probably got back with us on Tuesday, and he's been with us all week. Slowly getting him back in has been really good. Had a couple guys kind of limited this week, but I think on Sunday we won't miss a person. Donovan Leary had a small procedure done. They'll have him out for about 2 weeks, but he was doing really well. But he'll be out for the 2 weeks and move forward. So with that, open up for questions.
Does it feel like, other than an install, there's a point where the team can't learn anything more until they play a game?
I get the point. No, they can learn every day, right? But I think there comes a point where you want to get into preparation and the guys want to play against somebody else. And for me, as a head coach, I think you even get this way a little bit as a coordinator. When you see guys playing at a high level and you realize how big a jump they've made from a year ago, you kind of want to see it in a game situation. And on the flip side of it, you don't want to, you don't think negative thoughts, but you absolutely don't want to lose someone that you know is playing at a high level in a practice situation.
What have you learned about your team through 3 weeks of evaluation?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think, I know last year I said, hey, I like the way these guys are responding and talking, but it's just everything's deeper, right? In any part of life, right? The more you get to know someone, the better off you understand how they think, how they act, how they walk, how they're going to react to adversity, how they're going to work to criticism, how they're going to react to positive comments. So obviously there's some new guys that we're still learning, but I just think overall, offensively, defensively, and special teams, and we've had transition really on offense and on special teams. Our guys just understand it a lot more. I went through some game scenarios, whether it be end of game, start of half, first play of a series, just our guys seem to grasp what we're asking that much better.
What does it say about your
$7 billion over 7 years for a Big Ten deal? What comes to mind?
Where are you going with that question? Thought I got a bump.
When you hear that much money for the game that you coach, what comes to mind?
Kind of full circle. Like I remember my first paycheck as a GM, I made $5,000, and I had to pay for grad school out of that. Right? I didn't get into this profession, to make money, and I never really thought. I didn't grow up in a great home with a great environment. That money was never really said or mentioned to that magnitude. Right? I remember my first salary as a head coach was $750,000, and I give my coordinators a hard time because that wasn't that long ago. That was just and now the coordinators are making more than a head coach when I first got started. So it's kind of all proportionally just gone crazy. So when this deal was coming, I heard a lot of different numbers, coming at us. To me, the numbers are what they are. I remember sitting in a head coaches meeting with Jim Delaney talking about the development of the Big Ten Network and just seeing the reactions from people. But I distinctly remember Jim Delaney and Joe Pa getting into it because Joe Pa thought the contract was too long and wasn't asking for enough money. I think one of the reasons this contract came about is because of the foreshadow of Jim Delaney, what he did, and then obviously Commission now has taken it to another level. It's just really exciting to bring our conference to this level.
Coach, what does it say about the 4 captains that their teammates would vote them in? And have you always done it that way with the players voting?
Yeah, and I have really transitioned. I used to do it. I know at one point I actually did it in the spring, but that now you got transfer guys, and then I remember Russell Wilson kind of changed my thinking in that regard, and then I started doing it at the beginning of camp, and now I started doing it about 10 days out, just because I think I think our kids get a better feel of who they are, and one of the most important votes that I have, the way we structure it, defensive players vote for 2 defense and then 1 offense or special teams. If you're an offensive player, you vote for 2 offense, 1 defense, or a specialist. What I really like to do is observe the votes that the opposite units votes, right? So who voted for what defensive guys did they vote for on offense? On defense, what offensive guys did they vote for, or specialists? And I think you'll learn a lot about your team. 4 great representatives. I brought in 10 other guys the next day. Those were the next 10 guys that grabbed a lot of votes. So, to have about 14 to 16 players that received a significant amount of votes kind of tells you how much leadership we have on this team.
You haven't had too many non-senior captains in your time, but was it is there something special about Isaiah and Tyreek that they get that honor?
Isaiah probably especially because he's, although he is what's he called?
Fourth year sophomore.
He's an old young man,
Sure.
Right? I think since the end of last year, out of season, he went on a conference. I'm sure he might have told you about that he went and came back and talked to our team on when we were celebrating Juneteenth, and I literally walked out of that meeting. I told our staff, I go, we just saw somebody come to life in front of us, and that's what I've continued to see, not only in his ability to speak, learn, teach, but his ability to lead on the field. And then Tariq, kind of the same deal. Tariq, I know last spring there was a little moment where we kind of had a little coming to Jesus moment with Tank, myself, and him, and where he wanted to go, what he wanted to do. I said, hey man, you're our middle linebacker, right? You're the voice, and he's really been, like, just today I saw him. He was standing there and he was speaking one-on-one with Kanena and teaching Kanena something that, like, was away from the game. It was about football. It was just really cool to watch. So I am excited. I haven't had many underclassmen, but this is by a vote. Like, I know they probably think I sit up there and swing the votes, but I don't. This is strictly off their number of votes.
It's pretty fair to say that the depth chart's pretty set. You guys know where you're going with the rotation.
Yeah. Yes and no. I think for us, I always work off a 74-man roster at this point, just because that's what the NCAA allows us to travel. So I would say the offensive, defensive, and special teams, we know who the guys are. I think there's still some battles offensively and defensively that you just say, fortunately, unfortunately, there's, like an inside linebacker, we got 3 guys that we think can be starting linebackers. A number of guys probably at the nose position in particular on defense. I think at corner, battling it out. Spoon's probably established himself. The other guys battling it out. Tad's had an incredible camp. Offensively, obviously, in the offensive line, got probably 7 guys that are in that mix, and what the best way to put those together. Tight end, Luke should be back with us tomorrow. We'll see exactly where that plays out. Wide receiver has been very, very, that's probably been the most significant change, the way those guys are catching it. And then obviously quarterback, Tommy and Art, and actually Ryan Johnson probably had his best day today.
So I know you had Yelda for Hope in Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
When you were recruiting Mountis, knowing that you can get a good offensive lineman from Denmark to that?
Yeah, but I saw Mountis film, right? And it was just a pure bonus when I read his bio, what it was Denmark, and then literally when I reached out to him through social media, DM'd him, I think the first time, he had already known a lot about Yelda. We connected them. They had already connected through social media. They played for the same junior national team and all that stuff. So there was already a lot of connections. I don't really ever go after somebody because they're from somewhere, but he fit the mold of what we are. Yelda was actually recruited as a defensive lineman. He was a national defensive lineman. I knew he was going to play O-line. I just didn't tell him that because he wanted to hear D-line. But it's very similar, and I'm glad I did, because there's some great teaching moments when you're teaching or coaching a kid that's come halfway around the world, right? There's some things he has to go through that nobody else has.
Soul Turner, obviously a legacy coming
Yeah.
in. I don't know if we have to play, but what do you like about him? What's he brought?
Yeah, 2 things. So we put in an appeal. I haven't heard that, and I just don't see that, unfortunately, going our way. But for a young man that walked in our building, obviously his uncle is a great player here, and the way he's demonstrated how good a teammate he can be, just really awesome. We'll push him this fall as well. He's treated like he's playing. But yeah, every day he's been a blessing.
Coach, we'll go deeper into it on Monday, obviously, but what have you seen on film about Wyoming that kind of jumps out at you?
Well, defensively they're very long, very athletic. I think Coach Bull has a defensive background very similar. He and I have known each other a long time, been on different committees. I know how he thinks. Coach Miller, who came from there, obviously gives us great insight to what they say and do every day. With a huge amount of respect from our players, our coaches, for them. When you win national championships, that says something to me about your level to be a coach and a guy that's heavily involved with our AFCA. So I think defensively, they play with great length up front. They obviously lost a really good inside linebacker, but they've had, I think last year when they started fall camp, the NFL, they had 16 Wyoming players that were on NFL rosters, and that was equal and very comparable to what we had here. So I know how good of players they have there. And offensively, I know they got a quarterback situation going on, but what they do offensively is very calculated. They get big, they get small, run the ball very, very well, played really well in the bowl game, and I think we'll see more of that.
What is the mix like with Indiana, such a short turnaround? Like, how are you guys playing?
Yeah, so we're all Wyoming now, and then really it's a Friday night game, but all we'll do is cancel Monday. So we have a Friday and a Thursday game this year, so guys will get the calendars out. But on when we play Indiana, we've already got 3 good solid days of prep on them. when we jump in on Sunday, we'll put the game to bed after Wyoming, and then jump into a little bit of prep that night, and then our Monday will be like a Tuesday, or Tuesday will be like a Wednesday, and we can do the rest. And then when we get to UT Chattanooga, the blessing of that is we have a bye week the week before, so we'll get in practice in the bye week, and that won't be a short week for us.
Do you like playing a Big Ten game early like that?
I really don't care how we play, right? Like I've done this before. I think when I believe when we played Nebraska, that might have been the opening game of the season, if I'm not mistaken. I've played a couple of these conference games up front, but I think the excitement of playing Indiana. I know we haven't played them in a while here, so that's there. Got a lot of respect for Coach and what he's done. We have a lot of crossover in recruiting with Indiana, actually, more than I probably thought coming in. Whether it be here locally or down in Florida or wherever. So I think it's a great thing. Anytime you get challenged early, it's good.
Thanks,
Absolutely.